The world unfolds differently for each of us. Why? Where do the rules come from? Within each of us, there is a unique philosophy shaping our thoughts, beliefs, feelings, worldviews, and actions. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, an introspective space for curious souls and minds. This is where you get to understand your individual philosophy that writes the script of your life. This is where we unveil the inner wisdom that guides you. Yep, that was your inner sage knocking the door. Let's go and chat with him. Hi, it's Ecem. Welcome back to Inner Dialogues with me. Let's start with a story today. For a while, I've been working on my website, specifically for coaching, but it will also include the podcast. I wanted to include many things regarding my brand, messaging, the feeling I want to transfer to people. I've started to look at all websites I used within a day with a different perspective, trying to get ideas for mine. I've started reading books with a different lens in a way that they created a phrase, a sentence, or an idea about my messaging or design that I want to include in my website. When I go to bed each night, those brief moments before I go to sleep have become simmering moments in which everything I've consumed throughout the day can settle down and my mind can take a breath in internalizing and digesting them. In that process, while everything finds its place in my system, my brain starts to fill with answers, quotes, sentences, phrases, ideas, visions. I started writing them down in the middle of the night under the light of my travel-size book light. Now I have files and documents of notes, quotes, and keywords about my brand, which I want to include in my branding and the presentation of it on my website. This whole process of creating the website has included so much incubation and creation. How I started this podcast was the very first episode was about my great tendency to incubate. I think it will be my lifelong sweet challenge because it always requires awareness and attention not to slip into a constant cycle of incubation without outward creation. The forming of brand messaging is an area of incubation for me. Incubation of thoughts, ideas, incubation of other ideas and philosophies out there, incubation of phrases and keywords that represent what I'm providing to people with this brand. Incubation of many things, but incubating without creating is poison for me, is intoxicating for me. I get drowned and lost within the things I incubate, within all those files and words and ideas. During the process of creating my website, every line I came across, every sentence I heard or read gave me clarity about what I'm offering to people. When something caught my eye, but maybe more of my heart, I wrote it down, knowing that it would find its place. But sometimes the reverse had happened. A very tangible example of it was when I tried to come up with the headline for the website. The first thing with big letters you see when you enter a website. For me, I knew the subheading. It was easy, but centralizing all the things I stand for into a so-called catchy phrase was a bit challenging for me. I worked on my vision, mission, key messages of my brand and some scripts for the website, but the place I've always got stuck with was the heading. It was exactly a month ago that I was working in a cafe and trying new ideas and writing things instead of incubating and saving more of them. I was trying to create before I consume. I was scribbling some ideas that I truly and deeply believe, and I want my brand to represent it. I'm sure the book that I'm reading back then helped me to understand my philosophy and what I was standing for. I've shared it on some episodes as well as on Instagram stories once in a while, but it was Young Pueblo's Lighter. It was very close to the message that I wanted to give to people. It was about the journey of self-awareness, the resourcefulness of every individual, and the requirement of release of our conditionings in order to heal, in his words. These were the things that have always been central to my life, and they were the things from which I've been coaching. So I started writing down that my brand is not going to load people with new information, new knowledge, and it's not going to teach something, because I believe that we already know what we need to know within. We just don't hear them, or better to say, remember them. If you've listened to episode 5, No One Can Teach You Anything, All Learning is Recollection, you'll see this idea of remembering and how it is central in my philosophy. So I knew it was one of my central messaging. And then I thought, how do we remember? At that moment, the incubation process helped me, especially Young Pueblo's book. We needed to release our conditionings, learned beliefs and patterns in order to remember what we have within as answers and as our unique truths. It was going great. Release, remember. Then I got to build on it on that day. The final motto I came up with was release, remember, discover, embrace. Release conditionings, learned beliefs and patterns. Remember the answers you already have within. Discover your individual philosophy. Embrace your authenticity by living up to it every day. When I came up with that, it felt so good, but I also remember the feeling that something is not complete here. I didn't push it. I trusted and left it there. I gave myself to sit with it and go on with my day. The next day, I found the answer. The crucial step in coaching is reflection. How we internalize our progress is through looking back on it critically, digesting it, and calibrating ourselves to where we want to go from there. This is reflection. So I knew that reflection had to be in that motto. So it became release, remember, discover, reflect, embrace. Release conditionings, learned beliefs and patterns. Remember the answers you already have within. Discover your individual philosophy. Reflect on your journey. Embrace your authenticity by living up to it every day. This was truly what I've been creating with this brand, this podcast and coaching. I was truly happy with what I've got to create when it comes to my motto. This whole journey of creating my website, it has been such a balance of incubation, creation, and trust. Trusting that I know what I want to create, but more so trusting that the answers will come to me if I stay on the path of searching for them. In this process, one day, I wrote down the following sentence on a post-it and stuck it onto my desk. When a person is in a pursuit, everything that comes their way becomes an answer. It just came to me in that moment. It was summarizing my whole way of functioning in life. It was I was in a pursuit of answers, of knowledge. And as I trust it more, everything I see, I read, I touch, I hear has become an answer for me. I've always gone after questions with the hope of finding an answer. When I found the answer, I just couldn't stop. I went after a deeper answer. And when I found it, I went after another one. This is embodying philosophy. Philosophy is being constantly in a pursuit of answers through questions. It's not looking for definite answers, but being in an ongoing pursuit of answers. And when a person is in a pursuit, is in a quest, everything that comes their way becomes an answer. Philo, Sophia, the love of wisdom, the lover of wisdom. If you're truly interested in carpentry, you won't stop after finishing your masterpiece or the thing you thought was your masterpiece, because it's the craft, the constant pursuit of the craft. If you're truly interested in business, you're not going to stop after starting up your fourth business. You'd want to help others in setting up their businesses. Again, it's the craft that you're going after. If you're interested in politics, medicine, writing, theater, acting, or whatever your craft is, maybe it doesn't have a name. As long as you're going after the essence of the craft, you do not want to stop. The goal may seem like building one more house, making one more sofa, painting one more canvas, healing one more person, writing one more book, writing one more play, or starting one more business. But in time, you'll realize that whatever your craft is you're interested in the pursuit of it, the love of wisdom through your craft. If we always go after wisdom in our own crafts, everything will become our answer. From everything we can deduct our answers. What is the thing you want to create with your craft? There's a reason behind your craft. It probably started as something personal and selfish, but if it turned into a craft, a constant pursuit of the wisdom it provides, then that entails that you have a bigger reason and goal with it. I want to support people in their lifelong journey of understanding their unique philosophy, the script of their lives, and creating the art of living up to it every day. This is my driving motive. For me, witnessing people on their journey of self-awareness, growth, healing, vulnerability, resourcefulness, acting intentionally with the power of their hearts is so empowering, is so inspiring. This is my goal with what I'm doing with my craft. Why is it important to know what we want to create with our crafts? Why is it important to know what we want? It is very, very, very ironic for me to say that it is important to know what we want, because I shared in the previous episodes, I've never known my answer to the question, what I want to become when I grow up. Because I think back then I thought it had to be a noun, like a title for a job, an occupation. But I realized that it doesn't have to be a noun, an adjective, a job title. It could be a feeling. It could be a tangible thing. It could be a material thing. It could be a mission. We may simply know the thing we want to create through a feeling, through a material thing, through a mission, through a principle, or through a job title. You know how I think about when it comes to the feeling we should experience in knowing what we want? Can you think of something, a topic, an experience in which you loved being a student of, where you didn't have the pressure of mastery, instead you enjoyed the learning process? It could be a hobby, it could be a workshop that you took place in, it could be a process. What is the thing that you loved being a student of? For me, it is the self-work. The constant work from my self-awareness, realizations, reading between the lines of my life through books, movies, meditation, and a variety of other mediums. That is why I feel so much excitement when I think about having deep conversations with people in which I'm being reflected onto myself, and I realize the parts of myself that I didn't know and strengthen the parts that I neglected. I want to stay a lifelong student in this quest for the wisdom of myself. Being rooted from here, I created this Inner Dialogue sprint. I don't want to excel or master. I'd like to share and support others as I fill my cup every day, as I'm doing it right now with the podcast and coaching. But I don't want to excel it or master it. I want to stay as a lifelong student in it. Constant quest for the wisdom of oneself. This is what I want to create with my craft. Knowing what we want creates a focus in our journey. Knowing what we want is not static though. It is flexible. As we are. It is parallel to our growth, to our fluidity of ourselves. That thing you want to create can be valid for a couple of weeks, months, years. That version has a lifespan, but it is a version of something bigger that you're going to create with your whole life. When we focus on one thing, a feeling that calls our soul and excites us, a mission that gives us butterflies, the good ones though, a dream that creates a smile on our face, whatever that is. Once we know and embody that, it becomes a focal point in our lives. Knowing what we want enables support systems to appear all around us, because once our focus has become clear, we look out for opportunities. Once we drop the need to find answers, we focus on questions that keeps us on the path of never-ending opportunities for a variety of answers and growth. If you're craving a bit more science here, there you go. Here's the psychology part of it. Have you ever heard of the reticular activating system, RAS? I've recently learned about it. It is basically our attention filter. As Daniel J. Levitin explains, quote, millions of neurons are constantly monitoring the environment to select the most important things for us to focus on. They work largely in the background and outside of our conscious awareness. This is why most of the perceptual detritus of our daily lives doesn't register. Or why, when you've been driving on the freeway for several hours at a stretch, you don't remember much of the scenery that has whizzed by. Your attentional system protects you from registering it because it isn't deemed important. End quote. You know the classic example where one is asked to count red cars on the journey to somewhere. And when they ask them, how many black cars have you seen on the road? They just go, I don't know, but I can tell you the number of red cars. This is what happens, and this is what I understand from our reticular activating system. When we define what we want clearly to ourselves, we tell our brain to look out for opportunities, to look out for connections through which we can bring what we want into reality. Stay on the pursuit, stay on the quest, stay on the lookout. This is the message we spread around us and send to our brains when we know what we want. But as I said before, if it is a feeling that you want, that will also count. If it is a thing you want to create, let's define it. Let's define the feeling, the thing, the vision. Let's talk about it so that we focalize more and adjust our brains and our realities for the opportunities to make that thing into a reality. When a person is in a pursuit, everything that comes their way becomes an answer. When I first read about RAS, I noted down. I wrote a couple of sentences about it, sharing thoughts and reflecting on some personal life examples, and I left it there. Now, months later, I get to use it with the sentence that I got to create on the journey of my website. When a person is in a pursuit, everything that comes their way becomes an answer. The way I built this episode, this whole narrative and message around it, this is exactly the embodiment and practice of being in a constant pursuit and having answers from there. As I said, this is how my life functions. This is how I embody philosophy. Let me give you one more tangible example here. If you have listened to episode 4, Loss or Celebration, a new perspective on death and funerals, it is a very tangible example of the principle of pursuit and finding answers as well as RAS. That episode found its roots in a conversation that I had months ago in a car on the way to Glanlaw, Ireland, even before I started this podcast. In that conversation, I told to those wonderful, lovely people, with whom we were having a very deep conversation about death and our traditions around it, that I want to challenge the way I see death, and I want to change how I practice saying goodbye to and witness the last journey of a person. I was clear about what I wanted. I put the seeds of my intention in that moment. Months later, after releasing the 3rd podcast episode, I was on a car journey with my grandparents and my family. I shared the whole story in that episode, but at that moment, I experienced a grief of loss that didn't even happen yet. And I had flashbacks of the conversation we had on the way to Glanlaw. I remember the challenge I put myself in changing my mindset. Then I started writing down my thoughts and feelings at that moment. And when we reached our final destination, which was our summer house, I picked up a book that I wanted to read again years later. And it was the perfect book in my pursuit of changing my mindset about death. It was the perfect book having all the answers that I was looking for in the pursuit of wisdom around death. The creation of that episode was the embodiment of a pursuit and finding answers by staying committed to that pursuit. It has become one of my favorite episodes ever. If you haven't listened to it, I'd love you to join me on that lovely episode. I leave the link below. Let's slowly finish today's conversation. What is it that you want to create with your life? What kind of a feeling you're after? What is your medium in creating that? What is that thing that truly drives your soul, fills you with excitement? What is that thing in which you can leave your ego out at the door and commit being a lifelong student in? That allows us to stay committed to the true essence of our crafts, to the wisdom we seek through our crafts. If we were to stay on a constant quest for wisdom, every experience and every encounter can be an answer waiting to be revealed. For me, questions are always more valuable and guiding in our journeys because they don't preach a final destination to reach like answers, because our minds stay in the growth zone looking for further opportunities. How do you feel the difference between seeking answers and being on a quest for wisdom? A question to live by, maybe. As our conversation for today fades away, may you find your echoes of it that resonate within you. May you go after questions and stay committed in the journey of constant pursuit of self-wisdom. Thanks for listening today. This is Inner Dialogues with Ecem, a place where you discover your inner you, a place where you belong.